Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hunter's Wheelhouse. I have a special guest with me tonight, a gentleman I really admire. I feel like he has accomplished a lot in this sport, and sometimes I think small things go unseen, and maybe things should be seen. Mr. John Harris, how are you doing today,
How
sir?
are you? Doing all right, Bo. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. What are you doing on a boat?
Oh, it's that time of the year, bro. Summertime, tuna fishing, red snappers, just
Yeah.
guiding fishing trips.
What's
Just the
biting right
usual.
now?
Really, we're kind of limited to what we keep right now. But most everything's biting. Come June the 1st, though, here in about 2 more weeks, we'll be able to put a fish killing on. We're actually getting ready to go on a tuna trip here in just a little while.
Woo! That's gonna be fun, I bet.
Yeah, we're gonna go see if we can't go catch the elusive blue marlin.
I love it. So, John, you're from Lafayette, Alabama.
That is correct.
All right, and where'd you get your start in coon hunting?
Well, I started coon hunting with an old gentleman by the name of Harold Duffy
Okay.
from right there around the house. He started me when I was 5 or 6 years old, but didn't really get my own dog, I guess, till I was probably 13 or so. Hunted Harold's dogs a good bit. Another fella that I started with a young age was Sonny Sanders. I was probably 15 or so when I started with Sonny, and that's where things really took off.
Yeah, yeah. So now with Sonny, I mean, was he kind of the man that you looked up to? Was he someone that really brought you on strong?
Yeah, his son and I were really good friends in school, and we got talking about coon hunting there, and we'd go over and stay the night or whatever, and I started hunting with him, and then his son, he lost his son, so
Oh no.
I guess so to speak, you could say he took me under his wing. His boy didn't really coon hunt much anyway, and he just always kept me behind a real good dog. He spoiled me at a young age, man. 'Cause he always had some really good dogs, and I didn't
Yeah.
have no idea what they were, And of course, that's kind of where I got it off. I still kind of hunt the same style of dog today as I did then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in your style of dog, I mean, you like a coon dog.
I do. I like a big, wide hunting dog, real fast moving dog. But I like a dog that hunts like that. But trees coons as they come to them have to be a 100% dead loner. It has to be natural.
Yeah, kind of like the old Sheffield dogs.
Yeah, I swear I started out with one. That's actually what I started out with, one off old Dan. His name
Really?
was Playboy.
Hardwood
Yeah.
Dan. Hardwood Dan.
That is correct. Old hardwood
right.
Dan that Mr. Paul Sheffield had. He didn't really throw that many great dogs, and this dog, he wasn't necessarily just the fastest animal in the world, but he'd always be by himself, and he'd always have a coon.
Always
Okay. Yeah, and that's the two things that I really have to have in a dog. They have to be alone, and they got to pretty well have that coon. I don't like an ambush dog. I like a dog that treats them as they come, lay up or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like a dog with a really good nose and a good mouth. That's really, really important to me. And I like a dog to get off solo. When these dogs, when you cut them, they're all, bow, wow, 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 wow. I want mine to shut up and just roll on.
That's right. That's right. I feel like a dog that'll bark out of place. He just barking for no reason. He doesn't have enough sense. And brains, ability, independence, and hunt and accuracy. Those are things that you just cannot man make it up. Those
Right.
those have to be bred in them. And
Well,
there's the way they breed the dogs today. They're breeding them to bark. So I'm more of an old school, old timey coon dog man. So that's kind of the style I like.
yeah, and you've had your share of, I mean, sure enough, winners. You had a lightning dog, old dog named Lightning.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about
I sure
Lightning
did.
and Polly. Polly was another one.
Well, Polly was kind of an accident. Once I started hunting with Sonny, and I started to win a little bit there, around the house. I came home from the military. I'd been overseas. Came home, and there was an old fella named Gary Clanton there. He bred those old Adios Lightning bred dogs, and lived way out kind of off the road there, and he would let them run loose, And he and I had struck a deal on Lightning to clean dog pens and stuff like that for me to own it.
Yeah.
Well, he had let that old female Polly. He had let her run loose too long. He'd never gathered her up, and she wouldn't let nobody put a hand on her. She was just wild. You'd always hear trees around there somewhere. And I coaxed her up there, kind of got her talked up, and she would let me fool with her, and I went to hunting her, and man, she was a coon dog. We
Well,
won AKC Black Gold Championship with her. Got her in the finals of AKC World. I made her a Grand Night. I won 5 or 6 thousand with her in PKC. Um, and we turned her loose when she was 12 or 8 years old when I got done hunting with her. And when she was 12, she passed, and that was when I turned her loose was the last time anybody put another hand.
wow.
She
Wow.
wouldn't let anybody touch her.
Man, goodness gracious. Well, now, so you took a yard dog, essentially.
I don't know if you didn't call her a yard dog, bro. She was crazy. She's a wild dog, is what she was. She walked around, she would pop her jaws. She was, she was, she was bad. She was bad news, bro. She wouldn't let anybody get her off the tree but me. She was something different, but she was
Well,
a coon treater.
well, let me ask you something, John. I mean, you take a dog like Polly, for instance. A lot of people talk about it's bred into them. I believe it is, just like you do.
That's
What do
right.
you think was the key to getting Polly right?
Man, the dog really was a natural, and I've said this from word go, bro. Um, of every good coon dog I ever trained, I didn't train him. I just took him to the woods and kind of taught him what I wanted to get after.
Right.
If the kind that I'm looking for, you don't have to train. You take them hunting. They come here that way. They're born coon dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything that you have to
That's
train
where
will always have a weak.
I agree with you. That's where the genetics really, really stack up. I mean,
That
you've
is
got
correct.
to have the genetics to make it happen. I mean, that goes back a long ways. There's some there like your old hardwood Dans, your nocturnal nailers. You start talking about those, your river bend flags. You remember them old dogs? You know
That's correct.
those.
The dog that I'm hunting now is really strong nailer bred on one end.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm telling you
Yeah,
something. Those dogs had a lot of grit, a lot of drive, and they were some coon dogs. Now,
that they were. I think those dogs actually they're kind of like trackman dogs and rat-a-tat dogs. In my opinion, the ones that were closer to those, they had every tool except for the accuracy. And I
right,
think the second and third generation trackman, rat-a-tat, nailer dogs, they only got better.
right.
To be honest, I think they're better dogs today in those lines than they were closer up, just because they've kind of bred into those strong lines and bred the traits and abilities, that win over time.
Yeah, yeah. Who's some of the people you've looked up to in this sport?
Man, I've looked up to guys like John Strickland, Duke Pro, a lot of the old school guys. Man, I started really competition hunting, I guess, in around 91 or two. So Duke Pro and John Strickland, Tim Kramer, those guys. David Blake, known him for a long time. Anybody that would ever take the time to teach me anything, take me hunting or anything like that. I was just a sponge. I always looked up to all the guys that won. I'd get those magazines. And, I'd look through there and read them, and I'd just take on anything that I wanted. And the guys that I saw winning, well, those are the guys I wanted to be like.
Yeah, yeah,
It's been a long road, I'm sure.
yeah. So ultimately, I mean, I remember years ago, there was the first four-wheeler hunt. I think it was up Novo, Ohio.
The first four-wheeler hunt in Tennessee was actually the first youth four-wheeler hunt.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
We actually we placed in both of those.
Really, both of them.
Yeah, that's correct. I had a little female that was all lightning there. Her name was Rain. We did really well with her. Won a pile with her, and we were getting her ready for that very first four-wheeler hunt. Those days $300 was a big entry fee. And I had a young dog at the time. He was just an old dumb pup, which most everybody probably knows who he is now. But then, he was just an old dumb pup. His name was Zone. And Rain had fallen out of a tree and had gotten stave up really bad. And, Zone, I was training him, but I hadn't let anybody kind of see him. I kind of had an idea of what I had, but I like to. Sometimes when you don't see me at a hunt, I've got one cooking in the oven pretty good. So
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't really want to take him, and I was hunting for a guy named Josh Sparks. He really gave me my start in the bigger coon hunts and stuff. And I was like, so Josh, I said, man, I guess we'll have to sell our entry. And he's like, you ain't going to sell the entry. He said, you better take that pup. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to take that old pup, you know. And he's like, you either take that pup or you can find another handling job. So,
You took that
oh,
pup.
here I go. Yes, sir. I said, can you believe that? Got in the truck and rolled. What time you need me there, boss?
That's right.
So we got up there, man, and I knew what the dog was. Well, we got into finals and ended up taking second. Jeff Stallard was in that cast. He had posted lamb bones. Chad Reisner, he won it with can't remember. I think that dog's name was Buck. He won it with a zone, and it was some good dogs there. And I ended up taking second. I think he was 17 or 18 months old when we won that, and then we came home, and a buddy of mine named Gene Driggers had called me. One of his sons did not have a dog for the first Tennessee youth four-wheeler hunt. So I turned around and took the dog back up there, and the kid had never hunted with a dog but one drop. We went the night before the hunt and fooled around there, and we won it. We had some pretty big name dogs and people in that cast too, which Zachary Bartell was his name. He did a really good job hunting, but I think his mama was mad at me for them whelps for that Garmin antenna put on the back of his head. Every time he did the striker tree, I'd smack him with a Garmin, you know. But he fooled around there and won it in the final cast and the last two rounds there. I even set it in the truck. He did a fine job hunting him, and of course on his own he was steady, Fred. He tight on the ground, you know, be by himself, really monster mouth, and he'd always have that coon, so perfect for a kid, you know, not a whole lot of handling required, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, strike him when he strikes, tree him when he trees, and he don't want to do his part.
Yeah, you know, and I like a smart dog. Intelligence, that's a big deal.
Well, Zone seems to throw that in his puppies too, you know, but that was always the deal with most of the dogs that I hunt. They tend to really only hunt for me properly, so to speak. They're usually smarter than the people that are dealing. And those are usually your great dogs, the ones that are so hard to train and nobody can really get anything out of, but you know he's got the ability. He's really essentially just smarter than the man that's trying to train him, you know.
That's exactly right. You know, and John, you know, I hear that quite a bit. And sometimes you hear folks that get rid of dogs and they'll be having a dog, having a heck of a time with a dog, and they just bought him. And folks don't realize sometimes some of these dogs takes months to adjust, you know, to another person.
What gets me is I hunt a lot of dogs for some outside people, and you know I'm really known for being really honest about it, and I'm known for having a really good eye for a dog. People waste a lot of time with dogs and stuff, but a lot of people don't notice it. They've never had a good an elite style dog, so they really don't know what they're looking at. And the people that do have elite style dogs and know how to, you know, train and hone those type dogs, they keep those secrets held tight, you know.
Kind of like bass fishing, boy. Don't you mess up. Don't you get over in my tree.
Well, people always they always wonder why. I hear it a lot. Man, I always see the same people in the same dogs winning. Well, the reason you see the same people in the same dogs winning is because those guys, they don't sell good dogs. And two, they keep those training secrets close because they don't want somebody to beat them. But me, I try to let those things out because that doesn't do nothing but make my game better, make my dog better. Just like my outlook on shooting coons. I don't kill a dog coon. I think that's the worst mistake in the world you can make for one. A lot of bad tree habits are created that way, and an educated raccoon will teach your dog more than you could ever teach him.
That folks,
if you shoot him, that's the end of the line for that.
That folks, that's wise words. What that man just said right there, I hope everybody is listening what he just said, because it does not take putting meat in their mouth. If you got a smart hound, I agree with this man, and I hope everyone's listening to this, because if you got a smart hound, you do not need to be knocking every stinking coon out to these dogs. Now, I agree that we need to reward them every now and again, but we don't need to knock every daggone coon out.
Let's say if I was hunting a pup and one of my good old dogs, that pup does a good job on a coon, I'm going to shoot him out, And if we treat 10 coons that night, I might walk in there and shoot up in the air and throw that coon up in the ground, let it fall down, let that dog get it. He knows no difference.
That's right.
And there's him a reward. But literally, bro, I've probably shot 3 coons in the last 5 years. I just
Man, that's
don't
awesome.
kill them.
That's awesome. I respect that.
I mean,
I really do. You know, I want to bring up a dog that really, really piqued my interest back in the day, and that was the Zone dog. Let's talk a little bit about
That's
Zone
right.
and kind of some of the winnings, because this dog really done a lot of winning.
He did. We actually, Josh, when we started with Rain, we were running her up and down the road really good, and I had won the Breeders' Showcase and the Palmetto Jamboree and National Female Race. We won the Georgia State Race, Georgia State Championship 3 times with Rain. You know, she was a gold champion. She was a good one, but I saw Zone. He was off of a dog that Sparks raised. Her name was Dixie, and she was off of some of that old Clyde's Carmen Electra stuff, and went back to the Big D dog and stuff that Josh had around for 20 or so years. You know,
right?
And there was a fellow in North Carolina by the name of Chad Tone that had ended up with Zone. He had been through 3 or 4 hands from a pup, you know. And I saw a picture of that dog. Never hunted him, never heard of him, never nothing. I saw a picture of that dog, and it was just like a horse. There was something in his eyes that was great. I mean, you could just tell that there was greatness behind those eyes. Sparks told me I was crazy, and everybody else that I ever told about it said I was crazy. And man, I got that pup, and when I got him, I said, just buy him. And man, he give $2,000 for that dog when he give nothing for him. And he said, you're not going to like him. He barks all over the woods, and he's a thyroid dog. You're just not going to like him. So and a really, really smart or really, really tough dog, especially a bullheaded dog, they'll just shut down.
Yeah.
And you had to make friends with that dog. You know what I mean? There had to be that bond. Man, he would operate, and I won a ton with him. He never really did do a whole lot for anybody else, but I don't think anybody ever babied that dog like I did or made buddies with him. I mean, he rode the front seat of the truck. When I ate, he ate. We hunted every night, and I mean, when I cut him loose, he moved faster, moved with a purpose, and I mean, we were a team.
Yeah.
I've come to find that people will let you down a lot sooner than your dog will. So I just always spent time on my dogs. You know, they were the only ones that never let me down, and they were the only things that I ever thought were pure, that were untainted by the cruel ways of the world. And you know, people look around. I don't even watch TV, bro. I don't even watch the news.
Preach it, brother.
I hang out in the woods with my dog, or I stay on the back of this charter boat, and you know, the dogs and this boat, they both give me the same enjoyment. On this boat, I get to show people a time that they may not ever get to see again in their life.
Yeah.
I get more enjoyment out of teaching somebody or showing somebody how to catch these fish than I ever did catching myself.
There you go.
And with the dogs, they were the only thing that I could ever really relate to, and you know, I could just really be myself around. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
shoot, we just sit in the woods and coon hunt all night. You know, from dark to daylight every night, somewhere across the country. I mean, I think I've won money in 15 different states, PKC money in 15 different states, and I've won 12 state titles in 4 different states. Or 3 different states.
To say a little, you've done a little bit of winning, huh?
I've got lucky here or there. You know, blind hog will find an acorn every now and again.
Yeah, but you know, John, that also goes in from putting in the work to make the dog.
Jason, a lot of people have the common misconception that ability is trained in. The harder you work, the better the dog will be. That's just not true.
Love it.
All of that stuff. Got the 2 biggest keys to success is, one, you've got to have a special relationship with that dog. I mean, he's got to be your dog. And 2, you got to have that breeding and stuff in there, but you got to know what you're really looking for. You got to look at the blank canvas and know what the picture's going to look like and you got to know what real, true elite ability is. Um,
Yeah.
and most people don't know what elite ability is. A lot of people think that those dogs are crazy, that they're cold, um, they're mean. Um, a lot of those dogs are dogs that are a little aggressive toward people.
Yeah.
They've got one or two people that they bond with. Um, I don't like a rough dog per se toward other only. I do like a one man dog.
Right.
I think you can get more out of dogs like that. You know.
Yeah.
But those type dogs can't be passed around. You know, I think in the 30 some odd years that I've coon hunted for other people, other than clients' dogs that I've trained, I've only handled for 3 different people. You know, I don't jump around. I try to be loyal. And
Right.
I think if you're as loyal to your dog as that dog is to you, I think that's where all of that comes together. And I think that's where you really get that perfect hound handler combination. And you can buy a dog that's already trained, that somebody's done something with, and really make him great. I've done it with several dogs. Zone is one of those dogs. Nobody ever thought he'd be anything, and now he's platinum champion, one of the greatest reproducers of the Walker breed of our time.
Say we can't.
The dog. I mean, like I said, I mean, I've had a lot of adversity over my times of hunting, and a lot of people that told me I couldn't. I've never really ran with a crowd or a clique, you know. So it was one of those deals that me and my dog had to perform. If we want to win, we have to perform. We don't get breaks. We don't get favors. Right. We're not in anybody's clique. Matter of fact, we call it like it is, and there's a lot of people that don't like that. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We get accused of bragging or boasting or being arrogant, but you know, the truth is the truth. And if you downplay it, you're just telling a lie to yourself, and you're lying to the people around you. You know, it's just
and who wants to show up to a hunt? Here's the way I look at it, John. I'm being honest with you. When I show up to a hunt, I feel like I'm showing up with the baddest hound in the country. Now, if I feel like that hound is not the baddest boy in the country, I'm not going to come. It's just that simple.
That's correct. We actually went and won a hunt here back when they had the PKC truck hunt this year. It was canceled due to an ice storm, and we were already halfway to the hunt. You know, we got to thumbing around, and there was a UKC hunt over in Mississippi. It was added first, and it was pretty substantial. You know, I think it was first place was $1,000. Second was 800 and so forth. I called the gentleman about it. Man, he was talking, and we were telling him we were coming from Alabama. We sure are glad you came to socialize and fellowship. And I told him then on the phone, I said, sir, I don't mean to be ugly, but I'm not coming to socialize and I'm not coming to fellowship. I said, I'm coming to win that hunt. And he kind of got upset about it when I won the hunt. He was pretty hot. He was pretty hot about having to give me that money. It kind of got back to me that they said they really hated for somebody that arrogant to come over there and win like that. And I mean, I wasn't lying to the man. I mean, these dogs are how I make my money.
Right.
I didn't during the wintertime when we ain't fishing. That's how I make my money. And I mean, I wasn't being ugly. It wasn't anything personal. But I mean, I had the best hound that I've ever had in my life, and you know, he was tuned to precision. And I mean, we were ready to go win that truck. And
yeah,
we didn't get to go win the truck, so we went and won another hunt.
Yeah,
that's what I'm kind of getting at about people not knowing elite ability. You take a dog like that to a hunt and you win, and people they'll talk bad about you, they'll talk down, they'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll do anything they can to not tell themselves the truth that they just don't have that caliber of dog. You know, I mean, it's a lot easier to talk bad down or about somebody than it is to just self-reflect and admit, you know, maybe my way of thinking it in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, I got something to ask you. What do you personally think makes a great handler? I mean, honestly.
A great handler?
Great handler. If you, I'm talking about a handler that can make it and go to a hunt right now. Say he's taking zone. What kind of handler are you putting on that guy?
I'm gonna put a handler on there. Number one, that knows the rules. That's the biggest thing.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put a handler on him that's going to be able to think ahead and run some scenarios through his head. So when the time does come to make the call, he's already ahead of the game. That's how I handle. I try to think 2 or 3 moves ahead. When we pleasure hunt, for instance, we pleasure hunt just like our competition hunt. And the one thing I think all of us can say, we've heard another man say, is, I've never seen that dog do that before. It's because you had exposed him to that situations while you hadn't seen him do that before. People say, "Oh, I'm going to hunt him alone, or I'm going to hunt him solo." That's the worst thing you can do for a dog. Hunt him by himself. I'm going to hunt him. If you keep him by himself and he stays by himself, it doesn't matter if there's 50 dogs there. The same as being by yourself. And if you can hunt him around mean dogs, trashy dogs, barking dogs, backing dogs, just pure garbage. Dogs that will do anything, and he still, through all of that, can go and consistently tree coons, then I think one's ready to go to hunt.
Yeah.
Because you see all kinds of different situations, and you have no idea what these people expose their dogs to.
What do you think are some of the handlers' biggest mistakes?
Some of the biggest mistakes as far as just like handling is not knowing their dog.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the new age guys, they look at that Garmin, and they don't know what that dog sounds like. They don't know what that dog is. They know what that Garmin says, but they don't understand the game that they're hunting. Like if a dog's running an armadillo, he's going to have some sounds that he makes other than what he looks like on that Garmin. If he's running a deer or a fox or, knowing the terrain, there's a lot that goes into all of it to truly be a great handler, I think. But the biggest thing I would say was knowing the rules and knowing that dog inside and out, knowing what each and every little bark means. The personal relationship with a dog and the rules are the 2 biggest things.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would have to say I fully agree with you. A lot of guys, me personally, I used to gripe about, oh man, I got screwed. That was my biggest thing. I got screwed. No, I didn't get screwed. I didn't know the rules good enough. That's what happened to me.
There are a lot of handlers out there, Jason. If they would they get screwed every time they go, but they never get beat.
Right.
They never get beat. If you beat me, I'm just going to study harder, and you're going to have to beat me again. And you're going to have to keep beating me each time I come back because, we're going to go back to the drawing board. That's just one of those things that perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
But nowadays you got to have a handler that knows the rules. And if you are fair and you're firm with those rules, and as long as it's within black and white, you hear a lot of people, that he pencil whipped me and beat me with the rules. That's another misconception. Those rules are put there in place for a handler to use.
Right.
So if it's within black and white, there's no cheating, and it's not pencil whipping. And that's where, again, you hear people that don't know the rules, they say that.
Yeah.
Man, he beat me by the rules.
Yeah. Well, I got another question for you. Now, this was actually from someone from Facebook. They asked me this question. They said, what separates a local handler from a top tier handler? And I thought that was a pretty interesting question because you've competed on all levels. And what is the difference between your local hunts and your top tier hunts from hounds all the way to dogs?
It's not real pretty. It's
okay.
Not what everybody would think. But to be honest with you, your top tier handlers, for a lack of better word, that's where the BS stops, and that's where the real dogs and the real dog men show up.
Gotcha.
At your local level, I have ran into more cheating, more just outright rule breaking, dirty, underhanded stuff at local hunts and smaller levels, and that's all over the country. Than I ever have at a higher level. When you're hunting for 10, 20, 30,000, All that garbage goes out the window. Your dog will perform, and you will perform as a handler, and you'll be a gentleman. I've
Yes.
never one time have I ever had an issue at a larger hunt. Some of these smaller hunts, you have these people, and there are a lot of them out there that know me, and oh, he argues all the time. No, it's not that I argue all the time. They're wrong, and they'll take two or three of them and lie together before they'll ever admit that they were wrong,
Right.
and get beat. I mean, there are some handlers, we're not going to mention any names, that are top guys, and at that lower level, they will cheat.
Mm-hmm.
They will lie. They will do anything to keep someone who they feel is beneath them from winning. And that's where your upper end guys get a bad name. It's not at a local level. When everybody is on the same playing field, I think that all that goes out the window. And me personally, I think the way that we've got UKC and PKC set up, they're setting us up for failure as far as some of the handlers, not necessarily that are beneath me, but beneath you in a skill level, so to speak. A novice handler has no business, none whatsoever, hunting with an upper echelon handler that knows the rules, that's been competing, that's done a bunch of winning. He cannot win. The only way he can win is by precision. And even then, if he doesn't know the rules right or doesn't have just a good, honest man on that cast, he's going to lose. Because one of those handlers, they know every trick in the book. And that's where that integrity comes in. And temptation is a hard thing to go by. And sometimes these guys, they win so much that they'll do anything to win.
They get used to it.
That includes cheated kids. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think we need to set up classes in these KCs just like they do in AQHA, novice, amateur, open. After you win so much, I think you should have to compete with guys just like the Super State. The dogs compete with that same age. I think people with the same skill levels and handler earnings try to compete against one another like they do the senior cast.
You know, John, they do it in rodeo. That's pretty interesting you bring that up. I mean, I rodeoed my whole life. You've been around rodeo. You know horses. You know, in barrel racing, they have 1D, 2D, 3D, and 4D, and so on.
Correct.
And the reason why they have that is
that's correct.
The specific reason you just stated is you take a novice and then you take a top echelon handler and you collab those two. That's a bombshell waiting to happen.
That is correct. That is correct.
And folks don't.
And it's just like pouring gas on a fire, bro.
That's what, you know, and I hope folks don't misinterpret that. It's just that the skill level gap is so different and the knowledge level is so different that he's already thinking the upper echelon handler, he's already thinking 10 steps ahead and trying to get ahead where you're novice.
Well, you've got that. Then you take a novice handler, for example. Let's just say that we're on a heads up cast, or a 3-dog cast, you know, and you really beat him, or he makes a mistake, and you use the rules to win. He goes back and he gets a bad taste in his mouth, and he tells everybody that you cheated him. He doesn't know any better. And then you run the other scenario. Then you run the scenario of a man that has no integrity that should be able to say, hey, you know, and help those more novice handlers, and they screw him over, and the guy knows no better because he does not have the knowledge.
Right.
You know, and I just think that they're setting the novice and the others up for failure when they're putting everybody together like that. You know,
I really appreciate that point of view. I really genuinely appreciate that point of view. I think you really genuinely mean that too.
Not gonna like. There's a lot of people that are not going to like it, but just in my opinion, UKC and PKC both, I do not feel that the playing field's level. It's just not fair.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. There's a lot of them that aren't going to like it. But when I'm hunting against folks like Don Strickland and Dustin Weed and Michael Ward, I almost feel like I'm the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, you got to step your game up.
Those guys, you daggum right, because when you draw folks like Strickland and Weed and Ward, you can bet they've done their homework too.
Yes, sir.
there, so I'm not the only one. And you know, a novice guy that's been in it a year or two that really doesn't know the rules and hadn't seen the ropes, same thing. He doesn't really need to be hunting with us. He should be able, and it's not an arrogance thing. It's a work your way up through the sport thing, so nobody does get a bad taste in their mouth, and people can work and earn where they get there. That's a big thing for me is working and earning.
Right.
You should earn your way to the top. You shouldn't just walk in it just because you got money or hunt for a guy that's got money and he can go buy a dog. That doesn't make you a top guy.
Yeah.
I think everybody, just like military, I started at the bottom, worked my way up. Same thing with these dogs,
How long did you serve, John?
I was active for 5 years and then was inactive there on the guard for another 10. So we were 15 altogether, right
15.
at 16 by the time we discharged and everything.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's an honor just to say that to you. I mean, in all honesty.
I think the military is where I got a lot of my values, my integrity from. And it helped me out through all the way through, and that's where I learned to stand my ground and learned about always trying to do the right thing,
Yeah, there's old dog I remember you stood your ground with pretty good, old Zone. And then you had old Cowboy. So you want to talk about these two, or let's talk about it.
Yeah, old Zone, like I say, we got him in at the first four-wheeler hunt there, and we got him in the finals. And then I carried him up, let Gene Drigger's boy hunt him in the first youth four-wheeler hunt there in Lexington, Tennessee. We won it. And then that same year, we won the Bama Bash for Cash in Wedowee, Alabama. We got him in there, and then from there, they stood him and started breeding him, and I ended up getting an old dog named Cowboy, Space Cowboy. And that's what the dog that I've got now. And Cowboy was same as Zone. He'd been through about 9 different top dog men, and nobody could win with him. I think the dog had right around $2,000 won. He'd been in the Final Four, the Super Stakes, and that was it. And got fourth in that. And he just never really operated to precision. Well, I got him, and people ask me what I did to him to turn him around. I took the T15 off of him and put a T5 on him. And I got me a few 22 bullets, and we went to some public land, and I think I shot him 4 or 5 coons there when I first got him, and I made buddies with him. And he's my buddy, and I can take him today and let somebody else hunt him, and he'll do all right, but he doesn't do the same. But when I show back up to get him, I mean, he's barking in the pen, just going nuts. He loves me. I mean, I call him off a tree, do whatever I want to him, but nobody else really can. He just always, he took to me. And when he did, we went to winning. And I think the first year, I think we won about 14,000 with him in PKC. We didn't do any 1v1 stuff that year. And I made him a grand night, qualified him for the tournament champion. Well, I came down here to the boat, fished, and I get done usually right around mid-September. Well, instead of going to the Keys and bill fishing that year, I took Cowboy and we went to tournament champion. And we got top 16 with him that year. And we won the Bama Bash for Cash with him again. So I won it with Zone and I won it with Cowboy.
Jeez, back to back.
We won, back to back. They've had it 4 times. We've been in the Final Four 3 of the 4 times. Just get lucky.
Yeah.
And the second year, I'm wanting to say 1v1s, PKC money and all. I think we won right around 47,000 the second year. Biggest lick I've ever hit with that dog's $5,000, which was the Bama Bash. Everything else, we won 1,000 or less at the time. Ooh. And we've won that money in 13 different states with Cowboy.
But he was hitting some hunts, buddy.
Yeah, buddy, I'm going to tell you, in the wintertime, that dog pays my way. He pays my grocery bill. He pays my power bill. They pay my, they pay everything. Christmas presents. People have always asked me why I'm so serious. Well, if they don't win, they just didn't win a coon hunt. If I don't win, my kids don't eat.
Hmm.
You know, my power bill don't get paid. My truck bill doesn't get paid. You learn not to lose. You learn to have the type dog that is going to win more than he'll lose.
That dang sure
And
give you a lot
Cowboy
more
is like
drive
that
on
type dog.
it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you take Cowboy for instance. He is the current. Well, he won the Georgia State Hunt PKC and UKC last year. We won the Georgia State race with him. Then he's been in the final four of the Alabama UKC hunt the last 3 years in a row and won it twice. Got third the third time. And then this year we won the Mississippi State hunt with him in UKC. Opposite sex male, missed the overall by 25 points. Michael Moody's female won that. But we won that. We won a few pro sport deals with him. You know, he's pretty solid dog. You know, he's one of those that make them withdraw early and go home all the time.
Now, how's he bred, John?
He's off of a dog called Wipeout Weapon owned by Alan Hitchcock. And he's off of a female that is off of X Junior and an Insane Jane bred dog. It goes back to some Finley River stuff on the bottom end. You know, he's kind of mixed up, but he got all that heavy wipeout stuff on the top. Kid named Will Kennedy up Tennessee, Ralph Kennedy. They raised him, trained him, and really that's kind of how I got that dog back right. Will, he did real well for Will, and he never really won for anybody else.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I called that kid and I asked him. I said, "Hey, bud, so what do I need to do to that dog?" And he said, "You need to make buddies with him and take that chocker off of him." And I did, and you know he's that kind. And this year, I think we didn't run him quite as much, but some continuating circumstances. I think this year I won around 20 grand with him. Most of that was in 1v1 stuff, and then I was actually hunting that dog for a man named Jeff Camp,
Mm-hmm.
Douglasville, Georgia, and it wound up that he was all of a sudden just going to sell Cowboy. And I was kind of sort of faced with some options, which I felt like I was going to get the dog a little cheaper than what I did. But, you know, I ended up paying one of those big high prices for it. And there was not a big high price paid for the dog. And I worked my tail off to make him what he was. And there again, there comes that greed thing, you know. Somebody else is going to capitalize off of my hard work. And, you know, it was really an eye opener for me. You know, I'd said then that I was going to go back to doing what I really loved, and I was going to have fun. And that was training really good dogs and selling really good dogs to people that didn't know what they were, and sell them for a fair, honest price. And I couldn't get rid of Cowboy. Cowboy I needed him as much as he needed me, I think, when I got him. And it wouldn't have mattered what I'd had to pay for him. I would have bought him anyway. But just in my opinion, you know, the man charged me, you know, 4 figures for him, and they gave a couple $1,000 for him, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
You know, I guess when a man owns something, he can ask what he wants for it, and that's okay. But you find out who your friends are. Money and fame sometimes tend to make people do funny things. They forget who brung them, who danced with them, who got them there. And that's why I got that dog. That's why I'm still today. I'm a lifelong friends with Josh Sparks. Between Josh and those 2 dogs, they got me where I am today. Those 3 dogs, Rain, they got me where I am today. And I'm going to be as loyal to the people that got me there and the animals that got me as they were to me. I think that's a really big part of winning.
And John, and something I like about you is, you know, you're not too proud to say thank you. You know, thank you to everybody who got me there.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, today personally, when we talked and, you know, I knew we were going to do this, first thing I did was got on the phone and I texted Josh, and I told him, you know, again, hey, I appreciate, you know, I wouldn't be able to do these things and pass on the knowledge that I've got, or put to light some of the things that are kept in secret, if it wasn't for people like that had enough faith in me, or had enough faith in my ability to get me there.
Yeah.
And out of all the people that Sparks is the only one really that never turned his back on me. He didn't care what people said. He didn't care how people acted about me. He knew that it was a lot of it was jealousy. And he stuck beside me. And, for that, I mean, there's no price a man should be able to pay. I mean, loyalty is loyalty.
That's right. Mr. Sparks, thank you. Thank you for what you've done for this man. I mean, he's openly thankful. And I tell you what, this sport, I really feel like you've made a huge impact on this sport, John. You've handled some great dogs.
Well,
and it should be
I've always wanted to be that guy. Well, I've always wanted to be that guy, man, which I'm great friends with the guy now. But Duke Pro, I always looked up to Duke. And because of Josh, I was able to hunt some dogs. Well, I was at a really big hunt, and I drew Duke, and the cast did not go well at all. I thought he was going to squish me like a little grape.
He's a big man.
Duke's a big, intimidating man. He's a big old guy. But I'm going to tell you, bro, I was really let down by that. And, because I always looked up to that guy. He's always had some of the top dogs in the country, and he's always been one of the top guys. And, man, I was really disappointed. I was let down. And after that, he and I talked, and I told him that. And I guess because he was a good guy, and I guess it hit the right way. I guess it changed his way of outlook on a lot of things. And, now we're good friends. And I always said that I wouldn't be, you never know when a kid's looking. I'm not going to be that guy that's not going to take the time to talk to somebody that doesn't know anything about it or try to make them feel like I'm better than them. I try to be on the same level as anybody that I go with. I feel like if I might could learn something from those people.
That's right.
When a man thinks that he knows everything about a situation, that's when he's at his most vulnerable point. Because he thinks nobody can beat him, and that's when he's able to be defeated. It's when he thinks he knows everything, that's his most vulnerable point. And I think a lot of the guys that got to the top, Jason, I think they forgot where they came from. They forgot about these kids, these youth. There's some guys out there that do stuff with youth, but I think they do it for an appearance. They don't do it from the heart, because they do good things for kids. But when it comes to doing things for, just say, novice people or somebody that a grown person that they think is beneath them in handling, they don't do the right thing. So I think a lot of it is in faith. Everybody ought to have to take a kid hunt. Yeah. Everybody ought to have to take a kid hunting that's really got the passion for coon hunting. Not every kid I've ever taken likes coon hunting. Some of them do, some of them don't. There's been over the years, there's no telling how many kids and people I've taken hunting. I just always took the time to do for the others, I guess, that got me there, pay my dues, so to speak. And that's folks like Sonny Sanders and Sparks and them, they took a chance on me. So I feel it's, my duty to pay my dues to the people that are beneath me, so to speak, as handling this. If we don't, it's going to die with us. And we've got to teach them to be at that level, and we've got to teach them to train. And coons like football or anything else, show you a lot of values, a lot of spiritual things. As far as the Lord goes, me personally, I'm not a big on churches, but I think the woods, at least just like the spoke, man can't get any closer to the good Lord than on this water in those woods. You can read it in a book and you can hear what a preacher tells you, but it brings a new meaning to things when you go out there and you see it to yourself. And that's seeing God. That's not talking about it. That's seeing.
Amen.
That's the real stuff. Not a bird wasn't made by a man. Those trees, this water, that's all a part of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people up to on the way up that from when I started hunting to now, and even still, they took a chance on me. And loyalty, again, we'll touch back on that. I try to be as loyal to my animal as that animal's been to me, and that's why I a lot of times you'll never see me with a crowd. I've always got either a dog in the pickup, one in the box, or I got my coon dog up front, and part of the reason I bought Cowboy. That dog, I needed him at the time in life that I got him. I really needed a good friend, and that dog was there when nobody else was. And that's the whole reason that I paid a lot more for him than he was paid, and that just helped with the loyalty thing. I was loyal to the person that owned him, and I did right by him, and the dog did right by me. And I just don't think that dollar amounts can put a price tag on my integrity, my loyalty.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that dog, I wouldn't be squat. Period. Any of these dogs, don't any of these dogs. And even the people that have not done me right over the years, if it wasn't for those people, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't be who I am. That made me drive on. Telling me I couldn't, telling me that I would never be, that drove me on. I was always told, you'll never make money fishing. You'll never make money coon hunting. Those are hobbies. People that look at it like that will never be great.
Yeah.
You either have to be all in or nothing at all, and you have to do it from your heart.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you'll only be mediocre. And it's the same with that dog. If he doesn't do it from his heart, he's going to be mediocre. You can't train those things. You can't train it in a man. You can't teach it in a man. He's either got it or he doesn't. The core will always be the core, no matter what. That you start out with it and you end with it. And you may can hide with dogs, but deep down, the core is the core, and it'll always be the same. So I guess, the people that have got me there and helped me, those are the people that I need to thank the most. The people that put me through adversity, that didn't do me right, that did beat me outright, beat me with a good dog. People that took the time, showed me things that maybe others wouldn't, took the time to show me things, even though I wasn't in the cool kid crowd or the in clique. They saw enough in me and, had enough goodness in them to teach me, well, what kind of person would I be if I didn't try to pass that on to somebody?
Yeah. Yeah.
We definitely don't do enough for the youth of our sport. There needs to be way more of youth hunts than there ever does any of these big hunts for men to make and big entry fees.
Yeah, John, you have a good story, and I think everyone needs to know your story. And I'm honored that you gave me the opportunity to put it out there for you.
Yeah, hey man, I'm honored that you had me on. And I guess in closing, Bud, is anybody that this message reaches, any young person, any novice person, they need advice, talk dogs, I'm the guy to call. My phone's always on. If you don't get me, leave me a message. Text me on Facebook, anything like that. Anything that I can do, like I say, to pay my dues to the man beneath me, I'm all in about it. And I've heard a lot of people that are afraid to talk to me or call. So anytime, that's kind of my deal. Anybody who needs help, just let me know. I'm there, or try to be.
Well, we need more of that in this sport, and I appreciate you for saying that. And, John, God bless you. And you be safe out there in that water, and I hope you catch a bunch of them, brother.
Oh, we're going to try. It's about like coon hunting. We get lucky every now and again. Old blind hog will find a nation.
Well, God bless you, brother. I am your host, Jason Wayne Hunter. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, folks. We are everywhere. iTunes. We are here to put the voice out there for the hunters. Thank you, John Harris, for coming on. It was great listening to you. Stay tuned, folks. If you would, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast. It would be amazing help to me. Y'all take care. God bless.